Well, folks, Margaret Cho is a good friend of our show here. We rang her up on Skype last week, and she told us this true tale all about the trickster.
So this happened a few months ago. I had just moved to Peachtree City, Georgia, which is a very small town about 40 minutes south of Atlanta. And I was there working on a TV show that filmed there. I had rented a house online, and it was a very modern, maybe was built in the late 90s, kind of just cookie-cutter house that didn't seem different or weird. The first day I was there, it seemed a little weird to me. There was an energy around the house, not negative really, but I never really felt like I was by myself. There's something weird about it. Every night I would go to bed, and there were a lot of footsteps. It seemed like there were people in the house with me, although every time I would get up and look around, there was nobody there. And so I just kind of thought, well, this is just a new place. I'm not used to the sounds of the house. One morning I was in bed, and I just was laying there, and I just didn't want to get out of bed. I was supposed to go to work, and I just didn't feel like it. I was kind of just laying there, and the whole bed moved. Literally all the legs of the bed were off of the ground for a second. I was really scared, and I got up, and I got out of bed. It was so surreal and so strange, and yet I didn't have a witness. The next few days I had to get up at 5 a.m, which is what happens in television sometimes. It's not very glamorous. So I set my alarm clock. I have 3 alarm clocks, actually. I use my telephone, I use a wind-up clock, and then I use a clock on my computer. I set them all because I'm a very heavy sleeper. So I set them all for 4:30 in the morning, and I woke at 4:45. All of them had been turned off, and I was in a panic, and I rushed to work. It was very distressing. So the next day I had the same thing where I had a 5 a.m. call in, so I set the alarms all in a row again, and the same thing happened the next day. All of them were turned off. Woke up on my own, 15 minutes late. I ran to work, and I got really upset. That wasn't till then that I really started to get scared about it, and I was very self-conscious when I was in the house. I really didn't want to be there anymore. So that night when I got home from work, I spoke to the spirit. I said, I know that we're living here together. I'm not going to try to get rid of you. I'm not going to try to burn any sage. I'm not going to try to do any exorcism. I'll stay in the house with you. We can live together as roommates, but please don't scare me because I'm easily frightened. And obviously, you are some kind of prankster and think this is funny, but I have to live here, and I don't want to deal with that. At that point, I just thought, okay, I'm going to just deal with that this way, openly. So that night I was in bed, and I woke up near dawn, and I was thinking about getting up. And as I lay there, I was on one side of the bed, and I felt something or someone get into the bed next to me. The covers were pulled up, and I felt something slide in next to me, and the weight of a body laying in the bed next to me. I turned around very quickly, and there was nothing there. I really felt like it was like I was in some sort of Japanese horror film, The Grudge, where something gets in bed with you. And that was almost too much to bear. So that day I went to work. I didn't go back to bed after that. I was just petrified. I came back that afternoon, and I made arrangements with a realtor to get out of my lease and get out of the house. After I'd made all the arrangements, I was on the phone in the afternoon, and I'm talking to her. And after I'd finished everything and gotten a new apartment, I hung up the phone. And as soon as I hung up the phone, the oven behind me started beeping, and it wouldn't stop beeping. I pushed all the buttons, and nothing would appease it. It just was beeping so loudly, and it was really insane, and it wouldn't stop. It wouldn't stop. I had to call the maintenance person in charge of the house, and they had to come over. And as soon as the breaker was shut off, then the garbage disposal started erupting. Food that I had not made. It was just food that I don't know where it came from because I hadn't cooked in the house at all. So it was just erupting and vomiting up all this vegetable matter. I don't know where it was coming from. So that was really weird. So the house was just going crazy. And so then the maintenance person had to turn off that breaker. I just felt like whatever presence was there wanted me out of the house. So at that point, I just ran and got all my things together so quickly and was out of that house by that evening. I didn't return to the house until a couple of weeks later just to check on everything. When I went back to the house, in front of the house was a rabbit, and it was somewhat dismembered, like its limbs were kind of pulled off its body, and it was just laying there, kind of positioned in a very threatening way. I was so scared by that I did not attempt to go in the house again. One of my co-stars, Jackson Hurst, asked if he could spend the night in the house. So I gave him the keys. And when he spent the night there, he said that he had walked outside. There's a pool outside, and he walked out there. And when he was outside, the door deadbolted by itself behind him. So I don't know how he got back in the house, but he managed to. That he was very quick to tell me that, yes, this house is indeed haunted. So I tried to find out more about why the house was like this and what was going on. And the realtor told me that the whole area was built on the Trail of Tears, which is a very famous migratory path where a lot of Cherokees were forced off of their land and many died. The entire time that I was being plagued by the spirit, I always felt that it was a prankster, that it's a trickster, and that there was something about it that was playful, but at the same time, pretty sinister. And in Cherokee mythology, the symbol of the trickster is a dead rabbit.